I think we're ready. Okay, well, thank you again, guys, for coming. I know we're at the end of the day. I know that the next stop is beer, which is always a good incentive to sit down and listen to some curious fat bloke with a hat. However, I will try to talk to you about something I think is interesting. I've been talking about this stuff for about 18 months, nearly 2 years I've been talking about gameplay recording, and I'm still not bored of it. And the reason I'm still not bored of it is because I think this is something incredibly important about the very nature of playing games. Because I don't know how many of you are designers or, do we have hands up if you're a game designer? Yeah, great. So I'm amongst friends, good. I've been involved in sort of game design in all sorts of ways and means, from sort of tabletop board games up to consulting on games here and there. I even got to consult on Subway Surfer. I say consult. Jacob and Simon asked me for my feedback on the game when they only had about 6 million daily active users. I told them a few things I thought. They went and did the things they were going to do anyway, and they now have 26 million daily active users. So I don't take any credit, but it was nice to be asked. Anyway, so why am I saying all that? I'm saying all that because my background means that I've been able to look at games and see what works for a long time. And this idea of what social means is incredibly important. I like to think of it as the magical moment. So when we play our game, we all know this thing. When we get to this point where we just get that achievement, or we just got blown up, or we discover this fantastic glitch in the game that no one else has seen, that slipped through QA, we want to share it with people. We want to tell people about why this game makes us feel good, why we're passionate about it. But what we don't want to do is to have a little image that goes on Facebook saying, I found a little kitten at the end of the road. Do you want to adopt him? No, I don't. But if I show you something which I did, look how stupid I was when I did this. Let's say a game like, I think is the name of the game. My brain has gone on the name of the game. But there's this fantastic game from Secret Exit where you're a crash test dummy, and you're pushed down these stairs. Stair dismount, that's the name. You fall down the stairs and you crash and you get munched up into some machinery. It's hilarious, it's really silly. But then when you put your friend's Facebook picture on the crash test dummy and you share that on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, that suddenly means something much more, because you can get your own back on them, or you can take the mickey out of them. So what we're trying to do is make it so that we have a tool that lets you play your game and enjoy your game without any particular hassle, and then we will record the game as it's played automatically. You can choose not to, don't get me wrong. It's up to you as a designer or a developer how you want to use our SDK, but actually, please take my recommendation, record everything. Because the thing is, it's the player who decides what to share with other people. We want you to enjoy the moment. And enjoying the moment is actually incredibly important, because if you're constantly worried about how am I going to set this game up and how am I going to get this outcome, am I going to get this moment that's going to happen, where's the explosion that's going to happen, you're probably going to spend so much time making sure you've remembered to record that you actually end up never getting the moment you want. Again, a classic example of this was in One Epic Night from the Simultronics guys. There was this particular bug they couldn't find. You know, it was one of these things that happened 1 in 1,000 times. You're running along and you'd go left and right to avoid things. And there was this boulder, collection of boulders, which came up, maybe every minute or so, not very frequently, but frequently enough. Now, if you timed the jump just perfectly, you could jump all the way through the boulders. Because they hadn't just done a simple box collision. They actually had made the collision based around the shape of the boulders. There was a tiny, tiny gap. But nobody would believe the QA tester who did it. So they stuck Everyplay on, and lo and behold, they managed to recreate it so that the developer could actually see what happened. So these magical moments happen randomly. They happen in moments that are not in your control. So you should make sure it's easy for you as a player to capture the things that matter. What are the moments when you blow the head off a zombie in Dead Trigger 2? It's a pretty cool thing. But when you get these crazy moments when you die, one of my favorite pieces is things like in Hill Climb Racer, Hill Climb Racer is enormously successful for us. Something like 3.2 million followers on Everyplay alone. Think about that. Just on Everyplay, 3.2 million people have ticked the box saying, I want to follow when videos of this come up. And it's huge numbers of videos, huge numbers of videos. But then you can have this idea of sharing moments. So you're playing a game. We know an achievement's going to happen under some conditions. Well, isn't that a good time where we could go, oh, hang on a minute. You've just reached this achievement. You've managed to kill 1,000 zombies. Well, why don't we show the last 2 minutes of play as a recording? So one of the things that our SDK can do is allow you to decide how much to play back. So you can record constantly, but say, let's only keep the last 2 minutes of the recording. So that when an event happens that's really momentous, we can play back just those 2 minutes, and the player can share that with their friends. So the events and the experiences become meaningful, become purposeful. So our ability to show something which an audience is going to receive, not the player, but the player's friends, they're our audience here. They get to see what's so darn good about your game. Not because you've told them, because their friend loved it and wanted to show it off. And you can do that with some intelligent design. So, Everyplay is such a simple SDK to put in. It's already been a plugin for quite some time. But what I want to try and do is get you to think differently. And as we go through thinking differently, I think we'll hopefully reveal why I think the Everyplay acquisition was so important for Unity. We can tell our friends, and again, it's a simple process. We just click a button. Am I going to share on Facebook? I'm going to share on YouTube, Twitter. We have some other chat services we're looking at as well. I can't say who they are at the moment, but we're constantly looking for new ways to reach out to where audiences are, but more importantly, where their friends are, and where they're already naturally communicating. This is a chance for any developer to be able to find a way to help people feel comfortable and not just share, but effectively build user-generated content that matters to them. So I've been running platforms for a long time. For those of you who don't know me, I've been involved in online gaming since about '98 with BT's online gaming service called Wireplay. I then ran the game service at 3 UK. We did quite well, 68% of the UK downloads and plays, 45% of the revenue on 5% of the audience. So I kind of know how this stuff works. I was also home architect on PlayStation Home. And in each of these spaces, on the sort of online space, on the mobile space, on the console space, the same conditions apply. When we have magical moments, we're very often caught where we can't tell our friends about them, not in a way that's meaningful. But one of the really interesting things for me is if you go back to, say, 1938, where Johann Huizinga wrote about, homo ludus, the sort of rules of play and what does play mean. One of the key definitions was this idea that games are a way that we socially define ourselves. Because we know the rules. We know what rules we're going to comply with. And those that don't aren't one of us. And actually, the way I like to explain this is I'm going to say a phrase, and I think maybe 10% of you are old enough to get it, but maybe some more. If I say to you, hand shot first, see, I told you about 10%, and it really matters, doesn't it? It really matters. Because in the original Star Wars, before all of the special editions, Han Solo had an actual story arc. Because Han Solo shot Greebo first. And it matters because if Han Solo doesn't shoot Greebo first, then there is no reason, there's no powerful moment when he returns to save Luke at the end of the film. That really matters, but only if you're as old as us. Only if you saw the original films, because you lot don't know Star Wars like we do. I'm making the point for a reason. It's about the way we identify ourselves. And a lot of the stuff that we talk about, it's very easy when you say, come and use our SDK, it's brilliant, and you can get this sharing. Hey, wait, rah, rah, rah. Most of you wouldn't care if I did that. But what I want you to realize is that there's something really fundamental going on here. We're actually changing the nature of socialization in games. because we're letting players show each other what they care about. We're not telling them what to care about. We're actually empowering you as designers to excite audiences so they become truly passionate about what you do. And that's not trivial. It's about imagination. It's about creating the conditions that people can enjoy their experiences. And of course, once they've captured that moment, they don't have to share the whole thing. We can trim it. It's all these tools are in place inside the SDK. You don't have to worry about any of this. You don't have to worry about how you're going to capture the video. You don't have to worry about how do we make sure it doesn't affect your gameplay, because we've done all that work for you. We don't have to worry about doing the encoding, because that's all done for you. All of this stuff is done to make your role easier. Your opportunity is to find the best way to use it. And we can't tell you that. But I can hint at it. Because what we want to do, and the reason why we do this stuff is because we're trying to create a place for everybody who loves games. We're not trying to be Twitch. Twitch is a different thing. This is a place where we can asynchronously share magical moments of gameplay, where we can discover content in easy bite-sized chunks. We can look at what people we like are playing and how they're enjoying it, how they're expressing themselves in that. And this is a free service that we've been offering. You know, it's free to developers, it's free to audiences. We fund it through ads, you know, obviously, but it's a very straightforward experience. And it's a place for games. There's over 300 games that use Everyplay already. And we support iOS and Android at the moment. Obviously, we'll look to see how far we can go with that. And obviously, you can imagine being part of Unity now, where our ambitions might lie. But to have this kind of experience, this kind of tool that's already been optimized for those platforms, I think is incredibly powerful. And I think it's a place to enjoy games without necessarily, you know, knowing what you want to play today. You can go and enjoy the moments, see what people are doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it, learn things about it. The things I've found out, like there's a game called Sword and Glory I never would have heard of. It's one of the most beautiful, you know, games I've seen for a long time. It's completely black and white, apart from the occasional color flashes like shields or the blood as you cast down your opponent and you slash them with your sword. It's a brilliant game. It genuinely is a brilliant game, really good mechanics. But I would never have found it if I hadn't have been looking and browsing through Everyplay. And that's not the only time. I love things like the Bad Piggies. Bad Piggies has been using us for quite a while now. And you can rely on, you know, every day there'll be something, some video, although there'll be a lot of kind of, there'll be some videos which are genuinely funny. These kind of crazy Iron Man sort of things that have been built out of components that just explode. And it just makes me laugh. It genuinely makes me laugh. And it's that kind of material which is passionate and enjoyable because it's created by the players. So like I said, I've been involved in platforms for a long time, and the biggest secret of platforms is no one cares about the platform. They care about the content. The way to make platforms work is to make people care about the content. The way to make them care about the content is to make the content theirs. And that's exactly what we've done. And obviously, we make things simple as possible, so we have a single logon to make it easy. Obviously, you have to do that because, not because we necessarily want to get you to register, but because if you're going to share your information via Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, you've got to be able to log into those systems, and we'll make that easier for you. We can also do some clever stuff with video on demand. So, for example, as you play the game, we don't just record the gameplay, we can also record your face as you're playing it. And there's some crazy moments when you see someone playing one of these frustration games, you oh my god, and you got their face doing that. I look like some sort of gormless idiot most of the time until I lose, and then I look pathetic, frankly, but it's funny. It's genuinely funny. And that kind of stuff's brilliant because it brings to life the experience. But it has some consequences, some interesting differences that come out. So, for example, we've got people who are going in and saying, well, I want to get a better score in Skyline Skaters. So in Skyline Skaters, I found that if I do this thing and then this thing, then I find that I can get through level 1 easier. So people are building tutorials. So, I have a game which I work on independently. I'm a strategy director for a small studio called Colossal Games. And when we first used Everyplay in it, the fact that we could actually see that despite being a tower defense game, people hadn't worked out that you had to create mazes by placing the turrets to force the aliens to walk round. They were just placing them randomly. And we had some, we had slides saying, UI saying, do this. But no, they just placed their turrets randomly. So we had to change our whole tutorial. We wouldn't have known how to change our whole tutorial had we not seen what people were actually doing as they were playing. Incredibly interesting stuff. But even more importantly, when somebody came on who wasn't one of our team, who was just a punter, who did a video telling people what to do for us. If you think about it, players who like your game telling your other players how to get more fun out of the game. Great stuff, absolutely great stuff. And obviously we can do some smart sharing, so we can, people follow other people. They follow games. They are followed themselves. You can like things. You can share things from the service itself. The service is a kind of embedded experience anyway, so you feel like you never leave the game, and you can still do that. You can also go online and access it as well. So I think there's a whole bunch of things I'm trying to get across here. So, this idea that we can create experiences, that we can use data from the game to make those more relevant to people. We can embed relevant videos back in the game. So I beat Grant, and there's nothing to stop me clicking on Grant to then go and watch the video of Grant's play. And equally, there's nothing to stop him clicking on me to go and watch my play. And that's particularly interesting. I remember Autolog with the Need for Speed guys. The idea of taking what other players have done and seeing what they've done and taking hints and tips, because you can watch how they played the game, makes it easier to learn how to play the game, makes it easier to learn how the big scoring happens, makes the game more competitive, more engaging, more interesting. And you can embed that directly in, because we have a mechanism so that you can simply go, okay, I'm going to make a JSON request and pull this the list of videos, select the one I want to put up, put a link to it, play it embedded in the screen. It's very straightforward stuff. And obviously, we can pre-populate messages. I've just scored, actually, that wasn't a particularly good score between you and me, but I shared it anyway. But the important thing is not trying to can those messages, not force those messages. Because if you force those messages on people, you're back to the little kitten at the end of the road that no one cares about. It's still going to be personal. It's still going to be about what you want to say. And at the end of the day, it's about building communities. And this is, again, Skyline Skaters, and the idea that I can look here and see Andrew's video, I can see Mika's video, I can see all these people and build a community around their scores, and then go and play the game myself and try and beat what they did. Again, it feels very fresh. In fact, the Skyline Skaters went even further. They set up a competition, a weekly competition. Best score with these conditions this week gets an iPad. And of course, that just builds, community and interest and people doing all sorts of cool things. So basically, that's what Everyplay is. It's an SDK. It's a plugin. It takes about 2 minutes to put the basics in. So I go get it from the asset store. I put it into my game. I say where I'm going to start recording. Say where I'm going to stop recording. Done. Of course, you test it against the other SDKs. You've got. Somebody was telling me the other day that the average is about 25. Does that sound about right? 25 different SDKs? Not far off. I mean, it's obviously varies between different people, but it's not uncommon to have to worry about how all of the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, all the tools you've used outside work. So that takes some time. But then every piece of integration takes time. But with this, we've seen games like Secret Exit Stair Dismount getting something like 7.5% of their daily installs from Everyplay. Which is, that's organic installs, just keep coming. And as long as you've got an audience, as long as you're investing in your audience and you're just supporting it, it becomes self-sustaining to an extent. So it's an incredibly powerful tool. We can do some incredibly interesting things. We can do things like, something I've never seen anyone do yet, but I want to do in one of our games. I want to create a fame score. So if I were to do a JSON request and find out the data for my players, and then work out for the friends group who's got the most videos posted, the most likes, and the most shares, and make that a fame score, what effect would that have on my audience? I honestly don't know. But my gut feeling tells me it'd be pretty cool. Because you'd want to make sure you did the best possible video with the best possible experience. Because you don't get likes just because you post up lots of videos. You get likes because people like it, because they thought it was interesting. And so I think these kind of ways of thinking allow us to expand our possibilities of the experience. Because we can use the data that we post in with the video, we post metadata into the video, we can use that to search and inquire and review. We can see what people do. We can get QA experiences for a free SDK. It's not a bad way of thinking. Again, I know I'm biased. Amplify do other things too. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail on this, but I will talk about it because it helps get to sort of the point of the summary of this talk. So we have a video network, video ad network. But the way we look at video ads is it's an interesting way to build retention as well as to generate revenue. So I can talk about, yes, I can make you make money out of your non-paying customers. I could talk about that for years. And most of you in the room would walk out and be bored because you've heard it from every ad network on the planet. It is mostly true. You'd have to read my book on games as a service to know how to, what the nuances are. But what I want to get across with this is this idea that I got from this game Score. Charlie, who runs that company, First Touch, was telling me about why he does it. He does video ads because these are things that people opt into. So you're playing a game for a period of time. You get to that point in a free-to-play game where you're either going to have to make a decision to spend money or you're probably going to get bored. It's not that you're forced necessarily, but often you'll get to the point where you're not getting the extra bits and therefore you might move on to another game. But if you offer someone a video ad that they can get, say, 10,000 coins to watch a video, which would buy them maybe a new, football shirt or something, whatever it might be. What that does is it allows that player to get a taste of what would happen if they spent money. It also gives them some new scope to be able to enjoy your game. It's one of those sort of magical things which happens to work with the flow of the player. Because as long as you are open and honest and upfront about what you're offering and what they're getting for their watching a video, they know you're getting money every time you watch a video. They think you're getting about 10 or maybe even 100 times that money that you're actually getting because in our heads we assume things are more valuable than they are. But then when they spend that money, they see the value of it. There's something really different about spending something which you know has some intrinsic value than spending free coins that have no intrinsic value. And I'm not going to get into the debate about incentivized download or incentivized watching. Oh, okay, a little bit. Both are valid, different beasts. If I incentivize someone to watch something in the game, the reason why they do it is because they want the thing that you're going to give them for your game. That means that when they look at the video or ad, if they choose to go and download that thing, that game or whatever it might be, it's because they want to. It's not because they're going to get any more of this incentivized stuff. It's because they've chosen to get that thing. That means they tend to be quite high quality in terms of, for the person who's spent money on the ad. Incentivize to download, to actually act upon that video, is a different beast because you're paying them to do the action to download. So they want the currency. The quality of that audience will be less. You might get more of them though. So it is swings and balances. So why am I talking about all this stuff? The topic was all about magical moments. What does the Everyplay acquisition mean to Unity developers? Well, I think if we sift through what I've talked about, there's an attitude that Everyplay has, which I think is very much in line with the way Unity thinks. And it's this idea of making it better for developers to make better games. This idea of democratizing game development. It's an incredibly powerful thing. But the way Everyplay's structure works, our revenues scale because the more success the developer has, the more we contribute to that success by bringing revenue to you, bringing audiences to you, the more you succeed. It's a virtuous circle. And I think by combining the amplifier strengths with the Unity strengths, I think we've just invented the game's equivalent of the electric guitar. It might sound like a strange thing to say, but think about the electric guitar. What did the electric guitar do in the 1940s, 50s? it made it possible for a band of 3 or 4 people to make music to an audience of, thousands. Before that, you had to have these massive orchestras in with massive halls that was too expensive to get to unless you happened to be, rich enough to be able to attend it. And what happened with the electric guitar? People invented rock and roll. With the electric guitar came the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. It transformed how we consumed music. It changed the very expectation we had of what quality was, about what we found passionate, what we enjoyed. The electric guitar changed the world. Unity is the game's equivalent of the electric guitar. We're now building a solution, a tool set that's combined with a series of services that empower developers to make the best possible experiences imaginable, that allow them to do that in a way that is attuned to the needs of players, putting our audience first, allowing us to realize the quality of the art that we want to bring to the widest possible audience in a way where we can help you make the right decisions to ensure that that audience grows and ensure that we can retain that audience. So what I think we've done by being acquired by Unity, by what Unity's decisions are in terms of the strategies and everything else, is we've changed the way we think about game design, the way we think about game development, the way we think about game monetization at exactly the right time, where we're seeing new business models, new audiences, new social forms. What an amazing place to be. And I'm so glad I'm part of it. Thank you very much. Now, obviously, I will take any questions, and don't feel limited to just Everyplay or game design or whatever else. I talk about a whole bunch of stuff. For those of you who don't know, I'm also an author. I have a book called Games as a Service, How Free-to-Play Design Can Make Better Games, which is available on Amazon, Kindle, Kobo, iBooks, etc., etc. So I'll have to get that out, otherwise my publisher gets unhappy. Does anyone have any questions? Or think I'm wrong? Are we the drummer? Or the bassist?
Yeah, from hat to hat.
Hat to hat. Want to get a head, get a hat.
Since you said that the plugin for Everyplay has been out for some while, I'm not sure you actually answered the topic of your talk.
Heaven forbid.
What does it actually mean for us Unity developers, the acquisition of Everyplay?
Well, I think this is the fact that we're now part of the Everyplay Everyplay family. That sounds very odd. The Unity family, that's it. Now we're part of the Unity family. I think the opportunities to do more with what we're offering is there, but it's still very early days. So I think we're not restricting people's use of Everyplay on other platforms. I think that's a very open-minded decision. We're not forcing people to use just Everyplay, which again I think is a very open-minded decision. But it's a statement of intent, and I think the importance. And I think it's not just a technical question. What I was trying to get to is I think this is a much more profound benefit, because it means that we've got people who've got both the mindset of making the best possible tools and also people who've got the mindset of building the best possible services now involved together, building a solution experience. The net result of that, we're yet to see. I have some ideas about where it might go, and I see some of that work happening now, but I don't think we're really ready to talk about some of the sort of neat stuff that we would like to do with it. But there's so much possibility. It's pretty awesome. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, probably.
Probably. That's the best I can hope for. Yeah. Anyone else? I don't buy it really, honest. Well, maybe a little. There's a question here.
For those of us that don't have a lot of experience with, haven't seen a lot about how it works,
Okay.
Can you talk a bit about, for example, I'm curious about the website. Do people see that? Is it an optional part? Is it how does it?
Well, why don't we do a demo? It's one of those things where I'm going to go into this may be a familiar game to some. This is the, still the most popular game at the moment. I've got any volume. I don't know if this has got volume on it. So I'm actually playing live now. I'm not playing very well though. I'm going to run out of fuel, I think, before I go any further. I'll try and deliberately get myself killed. Let's try that. Ah! No! See, I died. Uh-oh. Aha. So, game's played. We can watch it. Ta-da! So here we are. I'm going to sit here, do some recording, initializing camera. So you can see me on the screen. Recording starts in 1. Here we go. We're going to be racing through. I've only just got to the ice level, so I haven't quite got my head around exactly how much throttle I need to push to keep my momentum. It's pretty hard trying to get up the steep hills. I've been picking up lots of coins and going through that. And of course, I now have an audience around me who are watching me talking about the game here, picking up points. And I think, oh, I'm nosedive, no, and I'm dead. What a terrible shame. If only I was better at this game. There you go. So I've just done that. Now, what happens next is... Here we go, we're going to be racing through. I've only just got to the ice level, so I haven't quite got my head around exactly how much throttle I need to push to keep my momentum. It's pretty hard trying to get up the steep hills. So I've been picking maybe I decided I've had enough of that, and I'm happy. I want to share it. Now, this is where I end up. I haven't actually connected my iPad to the Wi-Fi here, so this won't work. So you're going to have to imagine this to a certain extent. And I press share, and da-da-da-da, and it connects wonderfully. See, it did that, didn't it? In our imagination. Had I Wi-Fi, it wouldn't be a problem, but I didn't actually bother finding the Wi-Fi code. So at that point, you then get in fact, I'll show you the screen. The screen is actually in here, he says. Dunk. Come on, where's the slides? There we go. What you get, assuming you've logged in, or you can log in, but it's an interesting one because you only have to log in once normally. But new games sometimes don't use the back end. But you end up with this basically. I've decided. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Engage brain. Engage brain. Which is the one we end up with? Finding the right slide. That would be a good, neat trick, wouldn't it? Is it that one? Nope. That's the one. Right, so we share our replay. We get the share replay screen. That's the point where we decide, here's the default text. I can put my own text in there, and I just click on the F for Facebook, the YouTube icon or the Twitter icon, and then it shares. Now, what's happening at that point is that it's going to upload your video to Everyplay, and then Everyplay will handle all of the sharing out. So you're not having to worry about your data plan and how much you're sharing up, because it will do it once, and then we sort the rest out for you. As a developer, you also don't have to worry about the hosting, because we're doing that for you. You also don't have to worry about the moderation, because we're doing that for you. And it's all of that's covered in the process. So does that kind of answer the sort of bits you're after, or do you after the more under the bonnet stuff?
So I'm wondering. So this will share the video in Twitter or Facebook or something. But you showed also a website where you're listing videos, and I'm curious about how that plays into the other elements.
So basically, once I've shared, I end up at this. Not this screen. Which screen? This screen. You end up at a screen like this. Again, I'll show you on the thing, but I've not got the Wi-Fi password. If you go to a game like Skyline Races or Bad Piggies and do it, it's really straightforward. But you end up with a screen like this. You're still in the game. You just click actually, this is one I've done from the actual Everyplay app. So if it was from the game, you'd see a link there saying back to game. But you'd see the same screen otherwise, exactly the same screen. And you'd see the videos. In this case, I'm looking at Bad Piggies, obviously. And they've picked the video I like the look of, the name. And you'll see here there's views, hearts, and actually I think I'm looking at it from latest, 3 minutes ago. So obviously these hadn't had much time to be watched. But views, likes, and comments. So we can make comments on things, we can like things, all of that kind of. And it's actually quite useful if you want to find what's a good video to look at. You look for the one that's got the most likes and the most comments generally. So I can then follow that person. I think I've got an example of that. Do I have an example of that? Yeah, so here's a particular video. In this case, it's got some metadata here, so level 5.5. I'm not sure what that says, something scene, not sure what that says off the top of my head. But there's a whole bunch of data that's been posted by the game. So in the game, as a developer, you can post metadata, but you can make that metadata public or private. Obviously, that means that things like player ID and all that kind of stuff, which you don't want to put a player ID up because that's identifiable data. So there's a whole bunch of questions about how you structure your data, but you can put up non-identifiable data to be able to deal with that. So then you can do things like, well, this is the metadata I've got for this game. Actually, have I got, I wonder if I've got one. No, I don't think I've got it. Here's the metadata I've got for this game. I can now use that to tell you something about the level. Say I've captured level, score, number of lives left. So I can then sort through what I get back when I do a JSON request about what I want to now show you as a player, the kind of videos. So I might identify your friends from Facebook, and therefore now I've identified your friends, I pick the videos that they may have posted or not, and then I show a list of those videos in the order of this level, well, filtered by this level, but in the order of lives left or score. You might then want to watch that and see what happened. So it makes it really personal and actually really relevant as well. Is that closer to answering the question? Perfect. You have the mic, sir.
So right now you're available on iOS and Android.
That's right.
Which other platforms are planned in the near to middle
nothing's
future?
Announced in particular. I personally am asking, I'm keen on Windows myself, Windows Mobile myself, but it's challenging. I'd love to get the web player to have, Everyplay support, but we can't promise anything like that at the moment. It's clear that our ambition will be to, do everything that we can do with Unity. I think that makes sense. But there are unique challenges. So, for example, one of the things that's always held us back on PC is because there's always been pretty good tools on PC to be able to capture independently. But also, probably more importantly, unless it's a laptop, you generally can't guarantee there being a camera, which means we've got to have a whole bunch of rules. And also, the modular nature of a PC means that we don't know exactly how the architecture will work on every case, so we can't be sure we're not going to impact on performance. And performance matters to us. It really matters. Now, obviously, with a PC, it may not be so much of an issue if you've got a game that's, basically running on all platforms. It probably isn't, possibly not using everything a PC could do, but it's interesting. I mean, it's also interesting. What do you do with, it's interesting that Xbox One and PS4 also support sharing models, and I don't know what we'll do about that. Hopefully we just enable it to make it easier. But my view is that I'd like to see all of it, but resources and timing and strategy and other things we've got to do could get in the way, so I can't make any promises. Does that help? It kind of helps, but not help at the same time, I know. Any more questions? You don't want to ask me how great my book is. No, I didn't say that. Okay, guys, I think at that point, I'm going to thank you very much. I think I've held you back from beer too long. I do hope that you've got a good sense of what Everyplay's about. And I also hope I've left you feeling a bit inspired about what you could do with it. If I haven't, then tell me and I will cry. But that's funny. So funny for you, not for me. No, it's all good. So really go and enjoy the night. And if you have any other questions about Everyplay or monetization or design, please come and talk to me. I'm normally quite a sociable guy. Thanks very much, guys. Bye.